You know what element in games that has kind of gotten a bad name to it? QuickTime events, or QTEs for short. Those button prompts that suddenly appear on screen where you have to react super fast or you might die or your character will do something awkward. They kinda got a bad reputation for being obnoxious and a lazy way to keep the player invested during cutscenes. A merge between gameplay and cutscenes, if you will. Some are executed in an uninteresting way, like some of the ones I experienced in Heavy Rain. Come on now, shake your controller to brush your teeth, really? And some are great! Which is why I'm going to talk about Asura's Wrath in this video. In 2012, Capcom released this CyberConnect 2 developed game, which has been marked as a beat-em-up. I'd rather describe it as a God of War meets Res HD in a universe of Buddhist and Hindu myths and legends, but in a sci-fi setting. Rolls on the tongue, doesn't it? If that combination alone doesn't pique your interest, I don't know what will. What made this game really stand out to me is its distinct stylistic presentation and feel. Every level is called an episode, and each episode actually starts with opening credits. It's like you're playing an anime. Hell, they even included dividers for commercial breaks. Not only that, but the story itself and how characters are portrayed seem very anime-like. You play as the demigod Asura and Rage is his game, which isn't really a new thing for determined male anime protagonists. Now, as you might have guessed in the game's title, Rage is a big factor in this game. During the gameplay sequences you have a Rage meter at the top of the screen. You beat enemies to fill your Rage meter, then click Burst to progress. That's it! You don't have to kill X amount of enemies. In a way, it's pretty simple. But how does the game measure your success then? By giving you grades at the end of the episode based on how well you got through the QuickTime sessions of the game. So QTEs in this game is not a matter of life and death, like we've seen in Resident Evil 4 or in Bayonetta. If you fail a QTE session in Asura's Wrath, you simply have to redo it until you're successful so you can progress in the story. That's pretty interesting. And what's even more interesting is the design of the QuickTime events themselves. They are designed in such a way that the player can't help but strive towards hitting them all perfectly. And what is it about them that makes them so interesting? At its core, it's about feedback, the visuals, the build-up for when you have to press the button and the result after you have pressed it. Take for instance this scene. You're fighting the big bad boss Wyzen and he's flying towards you. You're both about to hit each other in pure anime style. Boom! A button prompt appears. But outside of it is a circle that functions as a timer for when would be the perfect time to hit it. So you have a visual cue for when you have to punch Wyzen, and you can see it in the cutscene itself in slow motion. This works as a giant build-up for something really powerful. You just know that this is going to be one hell of a punch. And when you've timed it just perfectly, you can't help but smash the A button on your controller as well, leaving you with an extremely satisfied feeling of how much force you just put into that punch. The UI and the sound effects completely back this up, further adding to the intense game feel, the pure satisfaction that comes with doing stuff in a game that you simply can't recreate in real life. Another example is the button mashing sessions. Now, usually I don't like these sections, but I feel because of the setting and the themes of the story that they actually work well in this game, because you're a character filled with vengeance and rage, you're fighting demigods with incredible power. When you're mashing the button like crazy, the cutscene shows Asura using all of his power to either build up rage or lift something massive. It makes you feel just as exhausted afterwards as Asura, keeping a clear bond between what you're experiencing and what he's experiencing. I can't remember how many times I played this game and I let out a groan after a mashing session, at the same time Asura was screaming with rage. It really feels like you can relate a lot more to what he's going through. Compare this to Shake the Juice simulator in Heavy Rain. This feels like such a cheap attempt to create the same bond between player and character that Asura's Wrath have done so well and simple. There's no satisfaction in shaking a juice, but rapid punching a planet-sized demigod's thumb until he explodes? That's legendary. What I'm trying to say is this. For what it's worth, I feel like QuickTime events can both hinder and heighten the game feel of a game, depending on how they're used. Some QTEs feel a bit shallow to me, because there's not enough connection between what you're pressing and what's going on the screen. But Asura's Wrath is, in my opinion, a game that benefits heavily on something slightly controversial in game design, because the context and the delivery of them are working so well. If I were to give 3 general rules when making QTEs, based on what I've learned from playing Asura's Wrath, it would be this. Have satisfying visual representation of the time frame, other than the cutscene itself. Make sure the success or failure of the QTE feel like it has a purpose in the story, and make the successful press satisfying both in the cutscene and through the user interface, through visuals and sounds. I hope to see game developers improve how we do QTEs now and make it evolve as a gameplay element. Because after playing Asura's Wrath, I know it has potential to be something really good. If you want to try this out for yourself, you should still be able to download the demo of Asura's Wrath on both the 360 version of Xbox Live and the PlayStation 3 version of PlayStation Store. All examples I've shown in this video are present in the demo. The full game is very interesting and super bizarre, and you get a good glimpse of that in the demo. I can only recommend you play through the whole thing. And I can assure you that the ending of the game is just as weird as the ending of this video.